Hello everybody! How are you all doing out there? I hope this video is finding you well. Welcome or welcome back to Get Right On In. My name is Andrew, for those of you who do not know, and today I am just going to go over a little intro to blogging. When I first started this channel in September, blogging was actually one of the main things I was ever questioned about as far as how to write goes. I got a little distracted with NaNoWriMo there in November, and I've been talking books for the last couple of months. So especially for some of my early subscribers, I wanted to make sure that I actually got around to the topic of blogs. I am not going to waste too much time on any of the other details, so without further ado, let's get right on in. Welcome back. First up, whether you are looking to start a blog for yourself or you are looking to carry one for a client, the first thing you may be wondering is, what is a blog? You may think that question is simple, but you may also be surprised at the potential depth of that answer. Nowadays, simply put, a blog can basically be about almost anything. If you are going to freelance, one of the main differences that you are going to have to learn is the difference between a blog post and an article. In some ways, this is nothing more than a difference in word count, and in some instances, they can actually be pretty interchangeable. For example, if you have a website for your own, or you are working on one for a client, there is likely already a separate section on that website devoted to the blog role. That is simply the area where you would create and share your posts. The blog role itself is usually used for related content or updates, or as I've already said, pretty much anything that you want. For a simple word count comparison, a blog post is generally referred to as something between 300 to 1500 words, and an article would then be anything longer than that. As always, that is pretty much dependent on the situation, but a good thing to remember in general is that Google doesn't usually like posts of less than 300 words, especially if you're going to be posting very consistently with less than 300 words in any of your content. Those types of frequent short posts are more likely to be labeled or considered as spammy, and for that purpose, Google actually prefers longer pieces. A longer piece shows more time and thought and effort, and it makes Google feel like your content is at least potentially more valuable. Besides a simple word count, you can also think of the differences between a blog post and an article like this. Blog posts tend to be a little more like listicles or how-to pieces. 8 bridges to jump off before you die. How to build a spaceship. Things like that. They are also written in a very conversational tone. Think of how you would give advice to one of your friends and base your tone on that. An article would be something that is more in-depth. Think of a sit-down interview with someone that really covers every aspect of their story, or even a feature about a local business that's opening up. In those types of situations, you may even feel like you're more reading a chapter out of a book. There's usually more sensory details in these pieces, and it's more about the story, so articles are a good thing to practice if you want to exercise your own prose. When considering the word count idea, I would say that a blog post could be considered an article, but not the other way around. So where did the word blog even come from? Picture this. Anytime you want to go on the internet, you must first endure 2 minutes of this high-pitched, obnoxious screeching noise, and you cannot receive any phone calls during the duration of your time on the internet, unless you have a separate phone line, of course. And no, I am not even talking about your cell phone. I am taking us back to an ancient time period where this horror story is known as dial-up. And if you know what dial-up is, you know what dial-up is. And if you don't know what dial-up is, just consider yourself lucky. For real. So anyway, back in 1990, 1997, a man named Jorn Barger, so sorry if I butchered that name, but a man named Jorn Barger coined the term weblog. His blog, Robot Wisdom, was one of the first and more influential of the blogs, and he used that term to reflect on his logging of the web as he browsed. Before that, a Swarthmore College student named Justin Hall had a personal homepage that acted more as what we would kind of refer to as a blog these days, but that was way before like the general population really even knew about the internet, I think. The term blog itself entered into the mix in about 1999 by a programmer named Peter Merholtz, which I'm sorry again if I butchered that name, but I tried. 5 years after the term blog was first introduced, Merriam-Webster named it as the word of the year in 2004. At first, in those early days, the general idea of blogging was more reserved for programmers and people who really understood the in and outs of how the internet worked. And then everybody got in on the glory. Did anybody else out there ever have a live journal or a blogger, or remember your little MySpace blog from the time that that was a thing? When the term blog first entered into the mix in 1999, there were about 23 of them. That saw quite an upswing as a reported 50 million came in by around 2006, and now here in 2021 we've already added another zero to that, and we're talking about 500 million blogs sitting out there on the internet. And nowadays it is just a free-for-all out there, which is essentially why I said at the beginning that a blog can pretty much be about anything you want. Are we learning about your life? Travel tips? Parenting advice? Are we talking politics? Health? Pets? Mold removal? Been there, done that. You can literally write about anything. And to close out this little intro video before we really get right on into some of the inner details of blogging in future videos, I would like for you to just remember those simple words. You can literally write about anything. And with some proper research and a lot of time and effort, it is also possible to find someone to pay you for your words. We'll also be covering having your own blog throughout the course of these videos, however long they may last. But if you are out there and you just need that little extra boost just to help you get started, it's okay. Go ahead. Everyone has to start somewhere. It is time to go get right on in. I hope you all enjoyed today's video. If you did, please give it a little thumbs up and potentially even consider pressing that little subscribe button to join me for bookish and writerly and entertainment-y-esque content every Tuesday and Thursday and sometimes on Sunday. In the meantime, I would love it if you leave any questions you have about blogging down there in the comments, because I would love to know where I can help you all out outside of the questions that I have already been asked and planned to cover. In the meantime, I will see you all in the next video, and I hope you have a day just as beautiful as you. See you next time. Bye.